Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with your hosts, Mike Sautter and Jacob Padilla.
Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Nebraska Preps Postgame. Mike Sautter, Jacob Padilla here, breaking down everything that happened last week in high school basketball. A lot of games, not a lot of big games, but there was a lot of games. We'll also go through our NEB Preps coaches poll on the boys side and kind of a little bit of shuffling and some movement, not a ton, but some games, some outcomes obviously affected some things. So where do you want to start? You want to start with the games?
Yeah, let's just go right off the top.
Yeah, Central Brian. Is that where you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Brian.
Omaha Central beats Omaha Brian.
Yeah, we thought we might see that in the OPS Jamboree final. Had to wait a little bit longer, and
because Westview.
Yeah. Good upset by them in the semis, but we got the game anyway, and Central pulled it out 62-55 to climb up to number 8 in our poll, bumping Brian down to number 9. Mm-hmm. First time all season, I believe, that Amari Bynum didn't have a double-double.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a tough matchup for Bynum, I guess.
He still had 25 points and was efficient, 7-12 from 3, 7-12 from the field, 4-6 from 3. And that's the thing, like he's starting to shoot the 3 more consistently. Like if that's coming around, oh boy. But only 5 rebounds and like 3 blocks, 3 assists, something like that. So he was not the problem. Neither was Rylan Rodriguez, who had 16 points, 10 boards, 6 of 8 from the field.
They're 2 best players.
Yeah. The rest of the team combined for 16 points on 6 of 30 shooting, including 3 of 20 from 3. That's not going to get it done. This is
something that we said about Brian is like your guard play is going to have to deliver because they'll get it from Rodriguez and Bynum. They have to deliver, and they didn't in the big game.
Yeah, and
Delron Thomas though.
Yeah, and they had been getting Brandon Jarman had given him a boost off the bench. Yeah. They got some other guys that can contribute in some other ways before this point, and then this week. It's been a little tough because Brian, after that, they lost 68-6, or they won 68-66 in double overtime against Southeast. Amari Bynum,
who has some decent guards.
Yes. Amari Bynum, 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks, 8 of 15 shooting, 3 of 4 from 3, hit all 6 of his free throws. Thomas Alsop had 13, Rylan Rodriguez had 12. And then again, the guards, Russ, 18 points, 7 of 23 from the field, 3 of 13 from 3 with 10 turnovers. So that's Brian kind of up and down week there. Like Bynum continues to be really good. They just have to, like you said, get a little bit more consistency out of the guard play. But also, like you said, Central, they got some consistency out of Delron Thomas, who had a monster week.
Yeah, Delron Thomas is that move for him. Probably good for everyone involved. I would say when I say that, he transferred from Omaha North to Omaha Central. Central kind of needed an upgrade at the point guard position, and they got it with him for sure. He was he's pretty athletic and plays hard and kind of fits the Chubbuck style, if you will.
Yeah, and Thomas had 28 points, 5 boards, and 5 steals against Brian. Hit 3 threes and 9 of 11 from the free throw line. And then they got a little bit extra production out of Kevon Newsom, 10 points, 5 boards, 5 of 6 from the field. The big key, just 5 turnovers as a team. Yeah, they got huge. More shots than Brian did, and I believe that Brian had like 12 turnovers, I think. So that's 7 possession gap there is pretty significant, and ended up being a 7-point difference in the game. So ball security and Delron just being that dude got them that win, and then they followed it up with another big win. Went over to the MAC shootout there over there across the border, and faced Abraham Lincoln there. 74-65 win.
They really just, and it was a little wider than that.
They were up 45-29 at halftime. Right. So they just kind of controlled the first 2 quarters and then held on in the second half. Despite shooting 2 of 12 from 3 and 14 of 27 from the free throw line. So they left a lot of meat on that bone, in addition to putting up 74 points. And Thomas, again, 27 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 4 steals, 10 and 19 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 of 7 from the line. So he was fantastic. And Devin Holman, 20 points, 8 boards. He's got to be more efficient than he has been in terms of if they want to stay top 10, continue getting some big wins there. He's gotten off to, I'd say, a little bit slow start considering what his talent level is. And if they can get him and Dale Ron going together, then they'll be tough.
And Elijah Wayne is another guy for Central that can kind of give them some production. Another size guy, Kayvon Newsom. We talked about him. Central does have a lot of size or athleticism, right? Deshaun Prince is another guy that is extremely athletic. If they could get some, production out of him too. But defensively, they're always going to be pretty solid. That's just what Chubbucks do. So we've seen that from their teams at South, and again, this Central team, it looks to be athletic and have some good size, and then you have Thomas running the point guard spot.
Yep. So they're 5-1, bouncing back after that Westview loss, and heading into the holiday break. So that's 8-9, 10 or 8-9 there. 10 is Omaha North, who's also 5-1. Took care of business 68-60 against Millard South and 62-46 against Lincoln Southwest. Minor Strong had 42 points. 10 boards and eight assists in the 2 games there. They got Kai Turner with 16 and Jerion Williams with 14 in the Millard South game. They got a double-double in the second game there from DeAndre Harper with 13 and 10. So North is kind of cruising along right there.
They're trending up for sure. North, I was at the North Lincoln Southwest game when the Pinnacle Bank game of the week. So I was there for it. And I am telling you, Omaha North punched them in the mouth right from the jump and didn't look back. I mean, they just did. And that's when I say punch them in the mouth, that's a, rhetorical term. But they did. They just were more physical. They just kind of played harder. And DeAndre Harper scored the first 6 points. I mean, they went right to him right away. He hit the first bucket in the post. He actually stepped down and hit a 3, which was very Coach Lichty called it a jump shot. I don't know how far off the ground he got, but he shot another one and didn't go in the second half. But the game was basically decided by then. North has got a nice team. They lost Delron Thomas. This is a big loss, and they had obviously had some graduation stuff too. But Coach Lichty and this staff has done a nice job with this group. Minor Strong is the guy, the scoring threat and main guy for them. But Jerion Williams had a nice game against Southwest. Like, they have nice pieces. It feels like they like each other. They get along. They're playing hard, playing together. They're 5-1, man. Like, the one loss, they probably hope they wish they would have got back too from OPS Jamboree.
Yeah, and I think Jerion's kind of the key for them in terms of what they're going to be able to do this season. Just a sophomore, he's got some ability. If he's got to continue to get a little bit, improve a little bit, get more consistent, to kind of be that co-star along with.
Key for that team is weathering the storms, right? Like, if there's any
things go wrong,
like keeping positive and just next play, like that next play mentality is definitely a key for them. That's something Coach Lichty was preaching actually during the game when a turnover happened or missed shot or bad play, something didn't go their way, and they did fight through it. They did a really nice job.
All right, let's jump back up to the top. You mentioned not a lot of big games.
Millard North,
big one for Bellevue West. We'll have to talk about, but Millard North played Benson 79-31. Neil Mosser had 20. And Derek Rollins, 13 points, 14 rebounds, 4 blocks. So pretty solid game there.
Millard North is the
5-0.
I think at this point, clearly the number one team. It's not like a huge gap or anything, but they've played their way into being the number one team. Obviously,
they've got the best in-state win among those contenders. And the good news is we'll get to decide that with the Metro Holiday Tournament after the break. So,
which will be fantastic.
yeah,
We can talk about that more
Yeah.
next week and kind of break that stuff down, holiday tournaments. But
Bellevue,
North, let's move on to Bellevue West.
Jumped up to 2 with a really impressive win over the weekend.
A really good team.
Went up to Minnesota and took on Totino Grace on their court. You and I both watched the stream of that.
Yeah.
84-74 win for Bellevue West. And
Robbie Garcia was a stud.
And that's, you look at Totino Grace, more size, more athleticism. I forgot, somebody's parent like tweeted out or put out a picture of just kind of like the captain, like the captain's meeting, and just the difference in two. Like, did not think this would go quite the way it did, but they got the win there. And so it started in the first half with Eldon Turner and overall team. They were 9 of 18 from 3 in the first half, and led 45-39 at the break after a slow start that saw them turn the ball over a lot. The defensive pressure really got to them, made some bad decisions, couldn't get some clean looks, and Turner really hit every
Eldon
shot he took in the first half.
Eldon Turner did a nice job.
I think he hit 4 threes in the first half. He put him on his back early while other guys kind of were trying to settle into the game. And then you mentioned, and Turner finished with 19 points, 8 boards, 6 of them offensive as a point guard, 6 assists and 3 steals. But the story of the game was Robbie Garcia and what he did in the second half to make sure, because they only hit 4 threes in the second half, cooled off just a little bit, but he gave them the interior scoring they needed. Had 19 of his 24 in the second half, 10 of 16 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, hit a couple of free throws, 10 boards, including 4 offensive. And between him and Jacob Arope, they had 10 offensive rebounds just between those two. And then obviously I mentioned Turner from the guard spot, crashed the glass. Arope had, I think, 6 points, 11 rebounds there. So they just really, the physicality they brought in the second half allowed them to kind of cool down from 3 and make sure that, and they did kind of let the thing slip a little bit. Totino Grace got back into it, but then they finished strong there.
Yeah, it looked like they were gonna really kind of cruise, and then it kind of got a little hairy.
And you and I were texting back and forth watching. It's like, all right, now this is the time where you expect Jaden Jackson to kind of take over to be that guy.
At that moment, then he hits a big three.
He got a steal, but it really was Robbie Garcia.
Yeah,
and he was scoring inside the both hands around the basket. Knocking down jumpers. Like, he was scoring in multiple ways and against guys with real size too. It wasn't like he was picking on guys smaller than him. So that's by far the best I've ever seen him play for an extended stretch there. And that bodes really well for them moving forward. And Jackson finished with 22 points, shot 50% from the field, hit 4 threes, all 4 of his free throws, 7 boards, 5 steals. So kind of impacting the game in a lot of different ways there.
Jacob Barope impacted the game. Didn't score a ton. But man, he was like body moving, like he was moving people.
Yeah. 20 offensive rebounds as a team. That's just
a ton.
Physicality and hustle.
Yeah.
Like I said, 3 guys
long shots for most of too, but still.
And a lot of those, that's where Turner was able to track down a lot of those. But around the basket, Arope and Garcia just right place, right time, putting themselves in position, kind of clearing guys out. Jacob drew a couple of fouls on the offensive glass when he did, even when he didn't get the ball himself. So, that was a really big win for them to go up there and take care of business. And now today, as we record this on Tuesday, they've got an afternoon game against Summit Christian Academy out of Missouri down in Kansas City at the Hy-Vee Arena.
3-game stretch here. Yeah, a little tough for them.
Yeah, because they got down to Kansas City, then they come back up and go to Westside on Thursday. That's the big Class A game this week.
Huge game.
Leading into the break. And then I had looked at the Metro Braxy yet, but that's got a feel of a Metro semi-final type of game there. Yeah. And we get it the week before or I guess the day before the tournament starts with the kind of the playing games. But so
it's actually a good, time. There's a lot of schools and teams that like have the end of this week off.
Yeah.
But you kind of want to keep playing.
Right? Yeah, because you already have the break. And I know coaches obviously understand it's necessary, but they're really uneasy about the moratorium and coming back because the Metro Holiday Tournament is such a big deal, and you got to not not touch the court for a few days there in between.
Yeah, Bell West is the 2 seed in the Metro tournament, and Westside is the 3.
So semi.
So they could, if they end up winning,
Yep.
all their games.
So in Westside, dropped down to 3, no fault of their own. They were solid. It's just that was a really impressive win for Bell West. Yeah. And Westside, so 5-0, they beat Omaha Northwest 87-44. So they had 8 players between 8 and 11 points, shot almost 70% from the field. The important note there is Donnie Barfield played for the first time. He's been injured all year and scored 8 points. And then Emery Geddick, the sophomore, who gives them a little bit more size off the bench as well. He was back after a foot injury, so 5 points, 3 boards for him. So that's kind of the most notable thing out of that game. They go to Southeast today as we record, and then they have the big one against Bellevue West on Thursday. Papio South took care of business last week. They played Buena Vista and gave their star juniors the day off. But the notable thing out of that game, 72-30, even with those guys. But Monte Brown, the transfer from Omaha Westside, first game there with the Titans, scored 13 points, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 of 9 from the field, and 1. So good to see him get out there and make his debut. And then just a sophomore there. And they followed up 61-49 win against Elkhorn South. And Reese Kirchard, 21 points, 4-10 from 3, 5 boards. Bryson Ball came back to earth, played like a normal good basketball player there instead of the all-world guy that we saw last week. But 14 points, 7 boards there, more than enough to get the win. Aiden Scratus for Elkhorn South. They've gotten off to a rough start this season. He has played really well for them offensively. He's been their go-to guy every single game and has delivered more often than not, as much as you can hope for a guy in that situation. So was it Air Force or Army?
Air Force.
Okay. Yeah. Football commit there, but having a good year on the hardwood as well. Gretna also took care of business. 81-31 against Burke. They had 13 players
number
score.
5 in our poll. Nothing, no change.
13 players scored against Burke. Cade Cook led the way with 15. And then 81-65 win against Millard West. Alex Wilcoxon, 18 points, 6 assists. Landon Pekorski, 15 points, 4 steals. Joey Veith, 14 points, 6 boards. Alec Wilkins, 14 points, 3 assists. So those 5 guys are those 4 plus Cook are going to be their guys all year long. It's a really good starting 5, and
their 5 is their 5. It's just you got to find 2 or 3 guys off the bench to kind of
shout out to
fill that gap.
My guy Trevin Wilkins, sophomore at the bench, did not miss a shot this week. Scored like 14 points, something like that. 100% from the field. So he's a guy that could improve as the season goes on to give them a little bit more off the bench. Playing with his brother there. And then Prep at 6, 5-1. They beat Gretna East 63-44. Trinell Parker, 18 points, 8 boards. Torrin Carter Brown, 18 points, 6 of 10 from 3.
He's having
and
a
5
nice
assists.
start to the year.
He has 100%. I've been really impressed. And they needed it. Obviously, we talk about the guard play is the key for them. Because of the size they have and what we know what we're going to get from those guys. But Dylan Clausen, 10 points, 9 boards. And then Christmas in the cage, 62-43 win against Papio. Dylan Clausen, 20 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks.
Not going to do a lot about that.
Parker, 12 points, 10 boards, 3 blocks, 6 of 7 from the field for Parker. So also the Michael Burt made an appearance during the halftime skit, brought the house down.
Shirt off Michael Burt, little baby
Jesus bringing the house down with a dunk at the end. So it's kind of cool how the way they do that
cage is like awesome,
and they like to incorporate like former basketball players that are other sport athletes that maybe didn't stick 4 years with the program, but it's cool seeing guys like Burt that played there 3 years, just being involved with something like that. And I mean, can't be that easy to find someone that can dunk to close out the. So you got to stick with some of the best athletes in the school. But finally, Kearney at 7, 81-62 against at Columbus. Asher Endorf, 25 points, really efficient. He's pretty solid start to the season. And then Jacob Weber, 17 points, 5 of 7 from 3. And
Weber's got to do it against good teams.
yes, that's what we're waiting to see, and we'll see the good seed in the hack,
their number one.
So have a chance to prove that for sure once we get through the break here. Ben Johnson 14-10, and then 84-41 against Omaha Northwest. So Ben Johnson 22-8, Jacob Weber 19-5, 4-9 from 3, and Endor 14 points. So that is the
three key guys, right?
Yep.
Always going to be. So
that is the top 10 in A.
Yeah.
Want to
run to B quick?
Yeah.
Let's just kind of run through it. So Crete's number 1,
Took care of
Elkhorn 2,
business.
no real changes. Bennington moves up from 7 to 5. Badgers had a couple nice wins here, and then obviously Roncalli had the loss, so that kind of ticked them down too, but not too much. Scotts Bluff drops from 6 to 7. They had a loss against the South Dakota team. And Elkhorn North moves back in. They were in the bottom half of the coaches poll. Elkhorn North is at 8.
Good with a good win over Hastings.
Yeah, good win over Hastings.
78-66.
And then they win in the Heartland Hoops Holiday Classic.
Hastings, St. Cecilia.
Yeah, against St. Cecilia, who's not a bad team either. So, and then Platteview wins the Gross Cougar Classic, and they jump back in at number 9. And Mount Michael's sitting there at 3-3. Their schedule's been kind of tough to start the year. They moved from 9 to 10. So not a ton of movement.
No,
but
like Crete, Elkhorn, Scott at the top.
We clearly think that the 4 teams or the top
Norris
4 teams with Norris in there are the top 4.
Yeah,
right.
It was a good win for Elkhorn, winning by 20 against York.
It was close at halftime because I stuck in. I dropped in there at halftime. I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?"
Cole Peterson only 4 points, but 9 rebounds, 9 blocks.
He had some foul trouble in the first half.
Yeah, but again, like that's something that nobody else in Class B really has outside of Scott is a player of that size with that kind of rim protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they get good guard play like they did this week, 16 points from Colin Comstock, and then Charlie Lamsky, good athlete, kind of the 4 spot next to Peterson there. Good receiver, had a really good week, 15 points against York, and then double 15 and 12 against Ralston. You mentioned Norton is hanging on there. They Mount Michael gave them trouble. 66-58 overtime win. That's a tough place to.
And at Mount Michael is always hard to play.
But 17-9 in the overtime period, like that's crazy there. So Barrett Bosiger, Chris Garner Jr. had a really good week. 14 points, 6 steals, 5 rebounds against Mount Michael. 22 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists against Seward. They won big in that one. So he's just the kind of guy that does a little bit of everything there. You mentioned Bennington. They got up there. 60-50 win against C1, previous number 1 Concordia. They got Austin Kaiser, 18 points, 7 boards in that one. Had a big game. Bryce Dunning, 12, and Hudson Newver, 10. Those guys Gavin Olson's kind of a guy for them as well, but those are kind of the key players that are going to produce.
The thing about B here is the EMC conference tournament is coming up, and that's going to be pretty tough.
You got a lot of EMC teams up here in this top 5
here. It's going to be pretty tough. And then Scott and Crete, I believe, are in the Doan Holiday. So
I forgot about that.
Could match up too. So that's a game that it could be very, intriguing, interesting.
Yeah. And so you mentioned Roncalli. They beat Lincoln Northwest by 19 and then lost to Donovan Trumbull,
which is a pretty good
67-59.
Is pretty good.
Yeah. So let's skip down to C1 then.
So a lot of movement in C1. A lot of changes.
Because there's some things. Concordia, we mentioned they lost by 10 to Bennington.
It's Bennington.
They were all. They played 2 Class B teams on the road this week. Right. They beat Ralston by 20, lost to Bennington by 10. So they drop from 1 to 4, which allows Ashland Greenwood to jump up to number 1. Wahoo went from 3 to 2 at 4-1, bouncing back after the Norris loss. And those 2 will face off tonight
Ashland Greenwood,
as we record on Tuesday.
That's going to be
at Ashland Greenwood.
Gym will be tight.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what time I need to get there to get a seat.
Really early.
Also, Ogallala off to a 7-0 start. Climbed from 5-3.
They're going to Phoenix for the I guess holiday tournament. I guess this week.
They're averaging 74 points a game. I was watching
what they do.
Watching
Get
a little bit of this
out there.
Yeah,
OG gets buckets.
And they 83-57 at D1 number 2 North Platte St. Pat's, and Caden Rezak went off.
Yeah.
Just
and
everything he threw up
like,
was going in. It's a good team.
Good team.
And on the road,
really well coached.
Put up 37 in that game. They just rained threes on them. And then they beat Gehring 89-80.
That's a nice
Hershey.
Gehring's all right.
Yeah, 74-50 against Hershey. So Ogallala, definitely a team to look out for out west there. And then I mentioned Donovan Trumbull. They took care of business against Kennesaw, 64-23. Then they were dealing with some sickness.
Okay.
I know this week that really kind of hit them hard. Lost to Central City 50-45. But bounced back in a big way. 67-59 against Roncalli. Jack Poppy, 26 points, 7 boards, 7 assists, 17 points in the fourth quarter of their 28 to allow them to kind of hold on to that win there after they had opened up a lead. I'm a little biased there. I coached him this summer, but he's a very good player. Stuff in the stat sheet. Off to a great start for them. They got 14 points, 5 boards from Parker Volk. And
they have a tough win tonight against Sandy Creek, who's undefeated.
Yep. Ethan Shaw's, their big guy. I believe the junior can put up some numbers there.
The big guy, like their star. He's not like big.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun one. Again, Class C, a lot going on there. And then finally, big one in D2 last week. Shelton at 6-0 out in that the holiday, the Heartland Holiday Classic there. 68-66 against Osceola. So Shelton remained at number 1. Osceola only dropped 1 spot to number 4. Ashton
D2,
Simmons.
You mean? D2. You said D1.
Oh,
that's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
D1 Johnson Brock clearly.
No.
Right now is clearly the
not a lot of change there, but Ashton Simmons 25 points against Osceola, and Riley Bombeck 11 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. Like that could be a like state championship game preview. 100% because
Osceola and Shelton.
So I normally do shout outs at the end. I wasn't able to get through all of them, but Riley Bombeck and Osceola's Kale Gustafson are 2 guys that you're going to hear in that a lot because they are 2 of the most prolific players in the country. Like Bombeck can put up a triple double in any game he plays, and Gustafson is a walking double double. Led the state in rebounding last year, doing it again. Had 31 points, 13 boards, 13 of 18 from the field, 5 of 6 from the line against Shelton there. And they got 18 from Kelby Newhar, but just not quite enough. Came up 1 bucket shy. So that's a huge win for Shelton there. Definitely deserving of that number 1 spot in D2, but Osceola is going to be a tough out as well the rest of the season.
Hey, Fall City Sacred Heart's sitting there undefeated too. Like,
I mean,
and
they're always in the picture.
You think? Doug Goltz has won a few games in his life as a coach. I'm pretty sure he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. On the girls' side, real quick,
they have a tough one. Tri-County is a pretty tough game for them tonight too. On Tuesday, Tri-County is a nice team that made a run last year. Remember, the C2 team. So it's Tri-County's in that area down there. I just have to play everybody, but as far as wildcard points, it won't change a ton, or it would actually maybe help them if they win.
Yeah. And on the girls' side, before we go real quick, no changes at the top in any of the classes for our coaches poll, but man, what a week for Britt Prince.
Nice.
Just
every week.
Yeah. But I mean, Bellevue West is as good a team as they'll play.
Yeah, that's the best team.
Hopped off the plane in Tampa and pulled up the stream, and just every shot she threw up was going in.
She could have had 30 at halftime.
Yeah. And she almost did.
She almost did it. I know.
She had 25?
Yeah. She could have had 30. She could have scored 50 if she wanted.
Well,
she could have done whatever she wanted to in that
game. Was it? I think she had 28 at halftime, and Bell West had 38, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
and then in the second half, like wish I'd seen the box score for that. Felt like she easily could have had like a triple double. Like
she
started diming people, and her
Mm-hmm.
teammates just were knocking down like every kick out jumper. So yeah, Elkhorn North, very good team, and that was a really impressive performance.
Clearly
and
the
it started
best.
with Prince.
I think they're clearly the best team.
She finished with 35, 38, something like that. Yeah. And like you said, it started passing, getting her teammates involved, and really good win for Elkhorn North.
Yeah. Millard West is playing really well too. Really well. Millard North, Pius and Southwest play each other tonight. Boy-girl doubleheader. Big game in Class A too.
And Bellevue West also went up to Minneapolis.
Yeah. Lost. Tough one.
Went against Totino Grace on the girls' side.
No Naomi White. She didn't play in that game.
So
had an ankle.
That's an issue.
She's the best player.
It was a single-digit loss even without her.
Right.
But taking an 0-2 loss against two tough teams outside of Class A, one outside of the state, dropped down to 6. But
they'll be in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, 3-3 so far, but I don't know that they're the 6th best team in Class A. I don't think that's probably true, but. You are with your record says at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean they lost to Pius, right?
Yep.
So Pius just has the one loss, and that was against Millard North. So
no shame in that.
No, yeah.
So all beat each other there, round robin there.
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. Metro and the Hack will have 4 rated teams. 4 rated teams in the Hack tournament, and then in the Metro tournament obviously is going to be.
Yeah, the Metro is going to be fun because I don't think we've seen Millard West face off against the other top teams.
Yeah, Marion's a sneaky team to look out for too here.
Yeah.
Like
they're number 9, 5-1 start the season.
Marion's I think they're a little scary.
Yeah,
right? They're just laying in the weeds a little bit.
But Millard West with the Gesser twins who just are outscoring teams by themselves at this point. It's a really tough duo. So they're sitting there at 6-1, 6-0, and as we head into the Metro Holiday Tournament next week,
we'll come back next week.
We'll figure
next
out.
Episode,
obviously,
let's
not going to record on Christmas, but we'll figure out sometime to get back in here.
We have time next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or something next week to really break down kind of holiday tournaments and the matchups and potential matchups. And then people will tell us like, oh, you picked us to lose. So, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. That'll do it for this week's episode of Nebraska Preps Postgame.